This is my college football top 25 rankings list. It's not much different than the normal one, so don't expect any crazy shit. Let's just go. All right, number one, a lot of this is just going to be spoiled in the movements are going to be dog shit because I normally put the team in the background anyways. But number one, I have Tennessee. I just think, I know, like, they're going to play Georgia, and they're most likely going to lose. Most likely. But I have a feeling that's because it's at Georgia, and I just feel like since they took out Alabama, like, I feel like Alabama was really the best team in the country. And, because from what we've seen, like, Ohio State struggle with Penn State. We've seen Georgia struggle with, like, small schools, or not small schools, but small teams, like teams that aren't doing that good, Missouri. And, Tennessee struggled with Pitt, but Pitt isn't doing terrible, like, and that was at Pitt. I mean, I guess that was a pretty shitty one. But I just feel like Tennessee's offense is just too good. I feel like they're too good. And I'm just going to put them at number one while I still can, to be perfectly honest. Number two, take a big guess as who it is. Georgia. I put Georgia at number two because I feel like this team is just really good as well. But I feel like they're like the Tennessee of defense. They are so good on the defense. Their offense is all right. I mean, obviously their offense has dropped multiple points, like double digits, more than double, like, I don't know how to say it, but like they've dropped like 50 points on teams. They've dropped 40 points a lot of their games, and they've really devastated some teams like South Carolina, who entered the top 25 not too long ago before dropping out after their shitty loss. They killed them. Georgia killed them. Georgia also killed Oregon, which is just an absolutely memorable game. But I have them at number two because they're all about their defense and not really about their offense. I mean, they are, but they aren't. And I feel like if they were to play Tennessee, like, it's going to be most likely a shootout between the offenses. Tennessee's offense is going to be better than the Georgia defense. And the Georgia offense is going to be better than the Tennessee defense. So it's just going to be a shootout. Number three, we have Ohio State. I had them drop down to number three because they kind of had a little sketchy one at Penn State. Given it's at Penn State, they actually played pretty well, and but number one in the country, number two in the country, I couldn't quite say that with the competition that they're facing. They did make the point gap look different because of a pick six or a scoop and score. I don't remember. It was a defensive touchdown, which basically means they scored off of a major Penn State mistake, making the score way more different than it should have been. But I still think they're really good. Their offense has been praised, but I feel like Tennessee's the best offense in the league right now, not Ohio State. Especially with what we saw at Penn State. I mean, Michigan walked all over Penn State, and Ohio State really had to fight that one. So I dropped them down because of that. Number four, speaking of Michigan, we have them right here. Dude, I'm really starting to look at Michigan. I mean, they struggled with Maryland, and they struggled with a lot of teams, but they really show up in the second half, and I'm like starting to look at Michigan like, dude, these guys could beat Ohio State on the road and go to the national championship. That would be crazy. They're starting to look like a very good football team. Like they look better and better every single day. And I'm a little like skeptical. I just don't know because they really haven't played much of anyone other than Penn State, but they had them at home. So there's a major difference there. But yeah, I don't know. They look better and better every day. Let's click that to get Michigan in here. Number five. Oh, who could it be? Alabama. I have them above Clemson and TCU because they lost to what I have as the number 1 team in the country, and they lost to a last-second field goal after they missed their own field goal. So it's kind of like, I still think they're pretty fucking good. They could still be the best team in the country, but they have that loss, so we can't put them at number 1. But I feel like if this team was undefeated and they had that win over Tennessee, I'd have them at number 1. Undoubtedly. Bryce Young is really good quarterback. I used to think he's overrated, but then I watched him play in that Tennessee game, and wow, he is fantastic. And honestly, the Alabama defense doesn't even look too bad either. But yeah, I have Alabama right here. Number 6, the Tigers. Clemson. I have them drop down below Alabama because I feel like Clemson and the ACC are starting to collapse and show their true colors. I think they're like really starting to show, like the fact that they almost lost to Syracuse and then Syracuse went and got crushed by Notre Dame at home. It feels like, wait, could Clemson be a little overrated? Could the ACC be a little overrated? Like, they went into major time overtime with Wake Forest, barely won it, and then Wake Forest, we just saw them get killed by Louisville. I mean, yes, they had 8 turnovers, but we still saw them get killed. Like, could this team be a little overrated? That's why I have them dropped down a spot. I know they had a bye week, so like can't do much about Clemson. It's kind of shitty to make them drop a spot, but I think that Alabama's better than them anyways. Number 7, I have Oregon. I have Oregon ahead of TCU because I'm really starting to get high on the Pac-12 teams. Like, maybe bias, maybe not. I'm really looking at these Pac-12 teams like, dude, Pac-12 could be a good conference this year. Thinking that Pac-12 has taken over the ACC spot and in like the race for the best Power 5 conference. Like, I feel like ACC last year was like number 4 and Pac-12 was number 5. I feel like they've kind of swapped. Maybe Pac-12 might even be number 3 with what we have seen going on in the Big 12, but definitely not going to take over the Big 10 in the SEC. But definitely Oregon, I mean, dude, they're starting to look, they are starting to look really good. That loss over Georgia looks terrible. First game of the season with a brand new quarterback and a brand new coach, and it's on the road at the number 1 team. That's a really fucking hard game to play. But still, nonetheless, they got crushed. They got killed. But I think they've started to kind of they've kind of started, like, you know, getting comfortable, starting to find a groove. Really sleepy right now. And I think that they are just getting better and better. You know, I really don't like Oregon. I fucking hate them as a football team, let's be real. But I'm really liking that they're number 7. We got to have that Pac-12 rep in there, and it's really looking nice. Number 8, we have TCU. Dude, undefeated. I'm still baffled by this. They were bad last year, and all of a sudden they're good, and I love it. TCU all the way. I would definitely go for that. And I don't really see them losing a whole lot more of their games. It feels like they've won like the hardest of the hardest. Like, Kansas State victory looks fantastic. Oklahoma State victory looks sketchy. But I feel like TCU is starting to look a lot like they could really like do good. I feel like they would have to be in if they win out. If they go undefeated, I feel like they'd have to be in the college football playoff. Like, they would have to kick out somebody like Clemson or something. They'd have to. Imagine if we have an undefeated SEC team like Tennessee or Georgia, then we have an undefeated Big Ten team like Clemson or Ohio State, Michigan, undefeated Big 12 team TCU, and maybe an undefeated ACC team. That would kick out Alabama, Oregon, USC, UCLA, Ole Miss, like all these other potential competitors. Which it's kind of shitty that Clemson's in there. I feel like they shouldn't be. I feel like another team with one loss should slip in there, but maybe Clemson can lose. I have a feeling they might lose this week against Notre Dame. But number 9, I have UCLA. I have UCLA over USC because UCLA beat Utah, and then Utah beat USC. So like that information just kind of is like, to me, I think UCLA is better. Just from that information, they beat the team that beat you. So like, yeah, UCLA's here instead of USC. USC's down a rank because they are really what we saw with the U of A. They're really all offense, no defense. And the way this team has seemed to play is that we're going to outscore everybody and play no defense. That's not going to work against a team like Georgia or a team higher than that. So like, you can't find yourself higher in the top 25. Can't be named that. Like, I think they probably will take another loss. They'll take a loss to UCLA. I have a feeling that they'll lose that game because UCLA has a defense standing for them and an offense too. USC doesn't really have a defense standing for them, but they have an offense, really good offense. They have a very good offense. So that's why I still am like, obviously I have to keep them at number 10 because they're USC and they have one loss, but I would have them lower if I could. Number 11 is Utah. I have Utah here because, dude, they lost to Florida at Florida, and everybody's going to give them shit about that. But first off, it's the first game of the year. Second off, Utah playing at Florida is such a shitty environment for the first game of the season. You are in a completely different environment, and the Florida stadium is fucking packed, and it's so loud. Like, what is Rising to do there at the end? He's like, just can't hear anything. Probably didn't even hear the play call. It's so humid. Like, it's just a terrible spot to play him in. I honestly, like, they shouldn't get shit for losing that game. Lose it to UCLA also at UCLA, and UCLA's proven to be a good team. But I think Utah has really bounced back since their UCLA loss and since their Florida loss. They look really good. Almost with the loss against Washington State, but I had a feeling it's a really cold game. It was at 7 at night. Really cold game at Washington State. And Washington State's a very defensive team. So the fact that they still managed to pull that off, I thought Washington State might have had a chance to win that game. But Utah pulled it off, and that was pretty impressive. Number 12, Kansas State. Sorry, it's a little... The pants are kind of blurring out Kansas State. But Kansas State had a really dominating win over Oklahoma State. And it feels really shitty that the NCAA Top 25 has Ole Miss over Kansas State. That's just so stupid. They beat Texas A&M, okay? Texas A&M is not anything special. Ole Miss should not be above them. And I feel like Kansas State is a very good team. They'll most likely take on another loss. I have a feeling that the Big 10 or the Big 12 championship is going to be TCU versus Kansas State again. I think TCU was at Kansas State. Oh, no, Kansas State was at TCU. So TCU will have home field advantage again unless they lose 3 games somehow. I don't know how they would do that, but I feel like Kansas State is a good team. They'll most likely take on another loss against TCU and find themselves in a weird bowl game. But the rest of their schedule, they look like they could win. I feel like their hardest game would be against maybe Baylor, at Baylor. They have Kansas at home, so nothing there. They have Texas at home, so nothing there. They are on the road at West Virginia. That could be a tough one. But, dude, this team is looking like I would have them much higher if they didn't have 2 losses, but they do. Number 13, the Rebels, Ole Miss. I have them here because they only beat Texas A&M. Like, okay, Texas A&M is a shithole. They cannot maintain. They are so inconsistent. They are so inconsistent. Like, they lose a game, then they win a game, then they lose a game. It's like, can't look at this team and be like, yeah, that's a BYU fan right there. That's a that's a BYU fan too, huh? What am I looking at? That's definitely the Rebels Stadium. Why are there a bunch of BYU fans? Well, whatever. Number 14, Illinois. Illinois is a good team. I don't feel like they're going to last. They have to play Michigan at Michigan, which will, if they win that game, that would be crazy. That would be absolutely crazy. But the real only loss I see them taking would be that one. They have Michigan State at home. They have Purdue at home. Then they're on the road at Michigan. Then they're on the road at Northwestern, and Northwestern sucks ass. So Illinois could be finishing off a fucking 10-2 team and finding themselves in a fine bowl game. And I think that they are definitely worthy of a fine bowl game. I would have them higher, but after all, it is Illinois. So, like, I am still skeptical. I didn't know how long this was going to last, but it seems it's lasted for a really long time. Illinois, they have a good defense. I haven't really seen much of their offense, but I know they have a good defense. That loss against Indiana is just like, what the fuck? And that's their only loss. But, Illinois, doing Illinois things, huh? Number 14. Number 15, LSU. I really can't place this team higher. We have to remember that we're trying to place the number 15 team in the country, LSU, at number 15, after they were absolutely slaughtered at home by Tennessee. Would number 15 in the country get absolutely slaughtered like that? Like, it really feels difficult to put them any higher. That feels like rude to the teams that are under them that haven't been killed. Like, I feel like we have to keep this team kind of low. Jane Daniels, traitor. He's been playing great at LSU. Even though he left ASU, I actually am enjoying watching him play at LSU. He is really showing what he's worth, especially in the running game. I mean, he needs to chill out. He's a skinny dude. He could get himself hurt. But, he played great in their last game. I remember their last game. Who was their last game? If I could stop clicking Illinois. Yes, Ole Miss. He played great in that game. They were down like 17-3 or something like that, and then they just climb all the way back and kill them. LSU, man. Very odd school right now. Very hard to place. Number 16, I have Penn State. I don't think this team should move down much. I agree with the top 25. They played fan-fucking-tastic against number 3 in the country. At least what I have them at. And that's really hard to do. I feel 2 losses, you have to drop down after a loss. It's kind of a requirement. But I don't think they should have dropped down that much. That's why I only have them dropping down 3 places. They played great. They actually showed some potential. They really lost the game because of that defensive touchdown. If not, they stood a chance. There was also times where they could have taken points instead of gone for 4th down conversions, but they didn't. So that led to their loss as well. And I said in my predictions video, Ohio State would win this game because of Penn State mistakes. And sure enough, that's exactly what happened. Number 17, the Tar Heels, North Carolina. North Carolina, they lost to who? Who did North Carolina lose to? I think I remember. They lost to Notre Dame, which, that's such a terrible loss. They could be undefeated right now, but they lost to Notre Dame at home. Notre Dame is starting to look better, but then they look worse, but then they look better, but then they look worse. I think Notre Dame would actually be like a top 15 team right now if they didn't take those shitty losses against Stanford and Marshall. I feel like they should have won. They definitely should have won against Marshall. I'm not sure about Stanford. Stanford is better than their record says they are, but nonetheless, I think that loss really puts them in a good spot. This is a good spot for North Carolina. Just praying that North Carolina wins out their schedule and beats Clemson in the ACC championship. That would be amazing. Number 18, Tulane. Dude, Tulane, bro. Like, sure, put them at 18. I want to see this team go to the moon. I want to see this team become like a top 10 team. It's always nice to see the small schools doing great. You know, Cincinnati last year was undefeated. I rode that train down to the depths. They got killed by, well, not really killed, but they got beaten up by Alabama pretty good. They put up some competition, showed some skill, but they kind of died in that game. But Tulane, I mean, they're Kansas State's second loss. Like, the other loss is against number 7 in the country right now. So, like, dude, maybe Tulane's good. Now, their loss is against Southern Mississippi, which was also at Tulane. It's like, okay, what the hell happened there? But I still think this is a good spot for them. Number 19, Wake Forest. Dude, they were at number 10, and I had a hype for this team. I thought they were really good, and they are a very good team. No team is going to win with 8 turnovers. 4 interceptions thrown and 4 fumbles. Now, interceptions is one thing. That's on the quarterback. But fumbles is like just such a shitty turnover to have. I feel like fumbles are just the worst turnover. At least an interception could just be like, bro, man, that sucks. But like a fumble, it's like on a play. It's like, oh my God, if it couldn't only get worse, we got tackled and then we fucking dropped the ball. But yeah, Wake Forest lost to Louisville so bad because of 8 turnovers. You're never going to win a game like that. Never, ever. Especially at Louisville. So I don't think they're that. I still think they're good, but that loss really does suck. Number 20, Liberty. Dude, this school, they're something right now. I'm really enjoying them. They lost by 1 point to Wake Forest, the team that I have ranked 1 spot ahead of them. That's their only loss, and it was at Wake Forest. That really like says to me Liberty has some potential. Let's be real, they lost by 1 point, and at a time, Wake Forest was number 10. Like, I think they might have even been higher. But, yeah, I think Liberty should keep climbing up and up and up. Number 21, we have the Cowboys. I had to, like, they are put at 18 right here. I was like, no way, Jose. Tulane, Wake, and Liberty do not deserve that over them. Like, that loss really should put the Cowboys down. And I have them way down because of that loss. Like, you cannot lose as the number 9 team in the country. You cannot lose. You cannot lose. You cannot lose 48-0. Whether it's on the road or not, you cannot lose 48-0. You have to at least put up points, and you couldn't. For 22, North Carolina State. Surprised I even have this team ranked right now. I think they are so overrated and terrible. Can't wait for them to take their 3rd loss. This team has been such a disappointment for me this year. I think they should just die. I actually have them ranked higher than I should. Next up, I have Syracuse. Syracuse should also die. Such a disappointment. They could have beat the fucking Tigers and they lost because they suck. They shouldn't even be in the top 25. I thought surely, yeah, Syracuse undefeated and whatnot, but they lost to Clemson having 4 turnovers in their favor. I feel like that should have been enough to put them down to at least number 20 or lower, but it didn't. And then they lost to fucking Notre Dame at home. They got killed by them too, and they're still ranked? No. I think Syracuse should drop off, but I don't really have any reason to not. If the top 25 says it, I would at the lowest put this team at 25. But I think Oregon State hasn't played their next game yet. They had a bye. So I wasn't able to be like, you go ahead of Syracuse. They haven't played Washington yet. They will this Friday. And that will basically determine what happens. Oregon State at 25, or 24. At number 25 is UCF. I agree with the top 25. Take down Cincinnati, the number 20 team in the country. Yeah, you deserve to be ranked, especially with 2 losses, one of them being against Louisville, which looks pretty good now, and the other one being against East Carolina, which looks pretty shit, but you still beat Cincinnati. So, yeah, I feel like they deserve a rank. And that's it for my top 25. I had to really speed things up. It's really late right now, and I'm very sleepy. I was yawning through this whole thing. Thank you for watching, whoever you are, the very small amount of people that watch these. Adios.